Robert Louis Stevenson. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Part 3. Dr. Jekyll was quite at ease. A fortnight later, by good luck, the doctor gave one of his pleasant dinners to 5 or 6 old friends. They were all intelligent and respectable men, and all knew good wine. Mr. Utterson arranged to stay after the others had left. This was not new, but something that had happened many times. Where Utterson was liked, he was liked a lot. Hosts liked to keep the serious lawyer when the cheerful and talkative guests had already gone. They liked to sit quietly with him, getting used to being alone again. They also calmed their minds in his quiet company after the excitement and effort of the party. Dr. Jekyll was no different. As he now sat on the other side of the fire, a large, well-built, smooth-faced man of 50, with perhaps a slightly sly look, but also showing ability and kindness, you could see from his face that he felt a true and warm friendship for Mr. Utterson. "I have been wanting to speak to you, Jekyll," said the lawyer. "You know that will of yours." A careful observer might see that the topic was not pleasant for the doctor, but he answered lightly. "My poor Utterson," he said, "you are unlucky to have such a client. I have never seen a man so troubled as you were by my will. Unless it was that strict pedant Lanyon, because of what he called my scientific heresies. Oh, I know he is a good fellow, you don't need to frown. An excellent fellow, and I always plan to see more of him. But he is still a strict pedant, an ignorant and loud pedant. I have never been more disappointed in any man than Lanyon. You know I never approved of it," continued Utterson, ignoring the new topic. "My will? Yes, of course, I know that," said the doctor, a little sharply. "You have told me so." "Well, I tell you so again," said the lawyer. "I have been learning something about young Hyde." The large, handsome face of Dr. Jekyll turned pale to the lips, and his eyes grew dark. "I do not want to hear more," he said. "This is a matter we agreed to leave." "What I heard was terrible," said Utterson. "It changes nothing. You do not understand my situation," replied the doctor, speaking a little unevenly. "I am in a difficult position, Utterson. My situation is very strange, very strange. It is one of those problems that cannot be fixed by talking." "Jekyll," said Utterson, "you know me. I am a man you can trust. Tell me everything in confidence, and I am sure I can help you get out of it." "My good Utterson," said the doctor, "this is very kind of you. This is truly very kind, and I cannot find words to thank you. I trust you completely. I would trust you more than any man alive, yes, even more than myself if I had to choose. But it is not what you think. It is not as bad as that. And to calm your good heart, I will tell you one thing. When I decide, I can get rid of Mr. Hyde. I give you my word on that. And I thank you again and again. And I will just add one small thing, Utterson, which I am sure you will understand. This is a private matter, and I ask you to leave it alone." Utterson thought for a moment, looking into the fire. "I have no doubt you are completely right," he said at last, as he stood up. "Well, since we have spoken about this matter, and for the last time, I hope," continued the doctor, "there is one thing I would like you to understand. I really have a very strong interest in poor Hyde. I know you have seen him, he told me so, and I am afraid he was rude. But I truly care a lot about that young man. And if something happens to me, Utterson, I want you to promise that you will be patient with him, and make sure he gets what belongs to him. I think you would do it if you knew everything. And it would make me feel much better if you would promise." "I cannot say that I will ever like him," said the lawyer. "I am not asking that," said Jekyll, putting his hand on the other man's arm. "I only ask for fairness. I only ask you to help him for my sake, when I am no longer here." Utterson gave a deep sigh that he could not stop. "Well," he said, "I promise." The Carew murder case. Nearly a year later, in October 18, London was shocked by a very violent crime. It was even more important because the victim was a man of high position. The details were few, but shocking. A maid who lived alone in a house near the river went upstairs to bed at about 11. Although a fog covered the city later in the night, the early part of the night was clear, and the street below her window was brightly lit by the full moon. She seemed to be a romantic person, because she sat on a box under the window and began to dream and think quietly. She later said, with tears in her eyes, that she had never felt more at peace with all people or thought more kindly about the world. As she sat there, she saw an old, handsome gentleman with white hair walking along the street. At the same time, another man, who was small, came towards him, but she did not pay much attention to him at first. When they came close enough to speak, just below her window, the older man bowed and spoke politely to the other. It did not seem like an important conversation. Sometimes it looked as if he was only asking for directions. The moon shone on his face as he spoke, and the girl liked to watch him, because he seemed kind and gentle, like someone from the past, but also confident. Then she looked at the other man, and was surprised to recognize him as Mr. Hyde, who had once visited her master, and whom she did not like. He was holding a heavy stick and playing with it. He did not answer and seemed impatient. Suddenly, he became very angry. He stamped his foot, waved the stick, and behaved like a madman, as the maid later said. The old gentleman stepped back, looking surprised and a little hurt. Then Mr. Hyde completely lost control and hit him to the ground with the stick. In the next moment, with wild anger like an animal, he began to kick him and hit him again and again. The blows were so strong that the bones could be heard breaking, and the body moved on the street. The maid fainted because of the horror of what she saw and heard. It was 2 o'clock when she woke up and called the police. The murderer was already gone. The victim lay in the middle of the street, terribly injured. The stick used in the attack, which was made of rare, hard, and heavy wood, had broken in the middle because of the violence. One half lay in a nearby gutter, and the other half was taken by the murderer. A purse and a gold watch were found on the victim. There were no cards or papers, except for a sealed and stamped envelope. He was probably taking it to the post. The envelope had the name and address of Mr. Utterson. This was brought to the lawyer the next morning, before he got out of bed. As soon as he saw it and heard what had happened, his face became serious. "I will say nothing until I have seen the body," he said. "This may be very serious. Please wait while I get dressed." With the same serious face, he quickly finished his breakfast and went to the police station, where the body had been taken. As soon as he entered the room, he nodded. "Yes," he said, "I recognize him. I am sorry to say that this is Sir Danvers Carew." "Good God, sir!" cried the officer. "Is it possible?" In the next moment, his eyes showed excitement. "This will cause a lot of attention," he said. "And perhaps you can help us find the man." He then briefly told him what the maid had seen and showed him the broken stick. Mr. Utterson had already felt afraid when he heard the name Hyde. But when the stick was shown to him, he had no doubt. Even though it was broken and damaged, he recognized it as the one he had given many years ago to Henry Jekyll. "Is this Mr. Hyde a small man?" he asked. "Very small and very evil-looking. That is how the maid describes him," said the officer. Mr. Utterson thought for a moment. Then he lifted his head and said, "If you come with me in my cab, I think I can take you to his house." It was about 9 in the morning, and the first fog of the season was in the air. A large, Dark brown fog covered the sky. But the wind kept moving it and breaking it apart. As the cab moved slowly through the streets, Mr. Utterson saw many different shades of light and dark. In some places, it was as dark as late evening. In other places, there was a strange brown light, like a distant fire. And sometimes, for a moment, the fog cleared, and a weak light of day shone through. The sad area of Soho, seen through these changing views, with its dirty streets, untidy people, and lamps that were still burning or had been lit again to fight the darkness, looked to the lawyer like a place from a bad dream. His thoughts were also very dark. When he looked at the officer with him, he felt a small fear of the law and the police, something that even honest people can sometimes feel. When the cab stopped at the address, the fog lifted a little and showed a dirty street, a bar, a small French restaurant, a shop selling cheap papers and simple food, many poor children standing in doorways, and many women of different nationalities going out with keys in their hands to get a morning drink. Then the fog came down again, thick and brown, and hid everything. This was the home of Henry Jekyll's favorite. This was the home of a man who would inherit £250,000. An old woman with a pale face and silver hair opened the door. She had an evil face, but it was hidden by false kindness. However, her manners were very good. Yes, she said, this was Mr. Hyde's house, but he was not at home. He had come home very late that night, but he had left again in less than an hour. There was nothing strange about that. His habits were very irregular, and he was often away. For example, she had not seen him for almost 2 months until the day before. "Very well, then. We want to see his rooms," said the lawyer. When the woman began to say it was impossible, he added, "I think I should tell you who this is. This is Inspector Newcomen from Scotland Yard." A quick look of unpleasant joy appeared on the woman's face. "Ah," she said, "he is in trouble. What has he done?" Mr. Utterson and the inspector looked at each other. "He does not seem to be a very popular person," said the inspector. "Now, my good woman, please let me and this gentleman look around." In the whole house, which was otherwise empty except for the old woman, Mr. Hyde used only 2 rooms. But these rooms were furnished in a rich and tasteful way. A cupboard was full of wine. The plates were silver, and the tablecloths were elegant. A good painting hung on the wall, a gift, as Utterson thought, from Henry Jekyll, who liked art very much. The carpets were thick and pleasant in color. But now the room showed clear signs of being searched in a hurry. Clothes were lying on the floor with the pockets turned inside out. Locked drawers were open. On the fireplace there was a pile of gray ashes, as if many papers had been burned. From these ashes, the inspector found part of a green checkbook that had not completely burned. The other half of the stick was found behind the door. This confirmed his suspicions, and the officer was very pleased. A visit to the bank, where several £1,000s were found in the murderer's account, made him even more satisfied. "You can be sure, sir," he told Mr. Utterson. "I have him now. He must have lost control, or he would not have left the stick, or, most of all, burned the checkbook. Money is everything to a man like him. Now we only need to wait for him at the bank and put up notices." However, this was not easy to do. Mr. Hyde had very few friends. Even the master of the maid had only seen him twice. His family could not be found anywhere. No photograph of him existed, and the few people who could describe him gave very different descriptions, as often happens. They agreed only on one thing. Everyone felt a strange sense that something was wrong or deformed about him, even if they could not explain it.